Having had the opportunity to play in the NCAA Tournament in 2020, unfortunately, obviously, that was ripped away from the Hofstra Pride. Yes, this is a team who, as of now, has not appeared in the NCAA Tournament in 25 years. They had the opportunity in 2020, but that was taken away by a global pandemic that, unfortunately, they had won the CAA tournament and should have played that season. However, they are finally going dancing once again, 25 years after they last made their appearance. So now, on a night that was filled with emotion from former alumni and NBA champion Speedy Claxton, the Pride took down Monmouth 75-69 to claim the CAA Championship, giving themselves their own opportunity to show the world that what they can actually do on the big stage. And what I love about this isn't just a fun story. This is a legitimate strong mid-major that has the potential to be a bracket buster next week. This is going to be a team that you want to know about when filling out your bracket. And that's why I decided to make this video, to talk about what metrics am I speaking to in terms of why I think this could be a bracket buster and who are the key players that you need to know. So without further ado, let's dive into the team metrics. So you all know, the Pride sit at 24-10 on the season. They went 12-6 during the regular season in the CAA. They started off the year fantastic. They were 13-4 and 4-0 in conference. They stumbled a little bit though. But what you love to see about this is the resilience in a team to come back after they do stumble. They lost 5 really close losses in a row in conference. But then they closed out the season 8-1 and as hot as anyone else in the country in the CAA. So, in terms of where they rank in terms of metrics, they rank 90th in offensive adjusted efficiency and 92nd in defensive adjusted efficiency. I'm going to take a moment here and rip off some stats, so lock in.
4 hours later.
They sit at 179th in effective field goal percentage. They sit at 32nd in three-point shooting percentage, 297th in two-point shooting percentage, 53rd in offensive rebounding percentage, 59th in free throw shooting percentage, 25th in steal percentage, 11th in opponent effective field goal percentage, 77th in opponent three-point shooting percentage, and 4th in opponent two-point shooting percentage. All right, that's a lot of stats. If you want to play that on 0.5 speed, I totally get it. But let's break down what this actually means in terms of translating this into team performance. So in general, they do run a traditionally slow style play. They rank just 320th in tempo and 335th in average possession length. They take over 19 seconds per possession before they take a shot. It's actually crazy. It's one of the lowest in the country. They rely heavily on limiting their opponent's opportunities to both control the ball in terms of limiting turnovers and in total control of the game. Think about football. It's like, how long can you be out there on the field and not allow your opponent an opportunity to score? Hofstra runs a similar approach, except just in terms of basketball. Obviously, it's a lot quicker than football, but the point still stands in the fact that they're taking every second they possibly can on the offensive end, because that is 1 second less every single time that the opponent has a chance to score themselves. Offensively, though, they live and die by the three. 37.4% of their points came from beyond the arc during the regular season, which is 41st in the nation. As we get into some of the player-specific stats, you're going to see that they have multiple sharpshooters who have elite efficient scoring percentages. And they rely, though, heavily on ball movement. They rank 110th in three-point attempt versus field goal attempts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that translates into a lot of assists. Again, they put a big emphasis on controlling the ball for a long period of time. However, they rank just 278th in assists, so you would think, an assist per field goal, I should say, but you would think that would be higher. It's not, though, because they don't necessarily focus on, you see some other teams that focus on ball movement around the perimeter, maybe cutting into a backdoor cut or slashing into the lane in general. This is not Hofstra's mentality. They run on, and as we get into the player statistics, you'll see what I'm talking about, but they run on the ability of just having a ton of sharpshooters out there. So they're not going to sit out there and sit with the ball for all 20 seconds passing it around. It's going to be more so of who can I get the ball to that is open, or A, can create space for themselves. And in particular, they have 2 star players that can create space for themselves that we'll talk about here shortly. However, on the defensive end, they hound the perimeter with tough on-ball defense. However, their real strength is how they eliminate nearly the entire ability to score inside the paint. I mean, they are magnificent. Their opponents scored just 44.8% of their points from inside the arc. That is 323rd in the country. Just to remind everybody where they sat in terms of opponent two-point shooting percentage, they are 4th in the country in opponent two-point shooting percentage. And by the way, this is a team that played power conference schools. We'll get to that later. but they played 3 power conference schools, won 2 of them, and held one who has a chance to maybe go to the NCAA tournament to a single-digit loss. So, we'll get to that later. So, where they sit on the defensive end, they've held opponents to less than 60 points 9 times this season, and since January 31st, the most that's been scored on them is 70 points in a 70-66 loss to UNC Wilmington, who was the favorites in the CAA coming in to both this season and coming into the CAA tournament. Over the last 10 games, they ranked 25th in defensive efficiency per Bart Torvik. That is 25th in the nation in defensive metrics. I'm going to wrap up this section. We'll talk about closing thoughts later, but I am telling you right now, this is a hot team, and defense wins games, especially when you're playing power conference opponents. So, let's take some time. Let's talk about 3 players that you need to know on this team coming into next week. If you only remember one single thing from this entire video, please let it be Cruz Davis. This man is insane. He is a 6'3" standout junior. He's averaging 20.2 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and 1.1 steals. He's shooting 44.3% overall and 39.9% from beyond the arc. So this is what I was talking about. Very good three-point shooting team. He's finished in single digits just 3 times this season, and funny enough, 2 of it came in their last 2 games in the regular season. So, hey, you know what? If you want to get a little bit cold, you want to shake off some rust, or just like rest for a little bit, I get it. Last few games of the year, do it. Get ready for the conference tournament. Get ready now for the NCAA tournament. So, and also, real quick, I'll add too, he didn't even score in single digits until January 29th. Dude's just insane. Anyway, aside from that, he ranks 158th in possession usage, 170th in assist rate, and 212th in three-point shooting percentage. He is not afraid of the moment. And you want to talk about a guy who's going to be able to come out in the first round of the NCAA tournament, maybe be electric, and put Hofstra over a power conference school. This is the guy you need to be watching. I really hate to say it. I would love to keep him at Hofstra. Probably not going to happen, though. My point, though, being is this is a high-caliber player, potentially pro player, right here on the Hofstra Pride team. Elite. If you remember anybody, remember Cruz Davis. From Davis, kind of the second in command on this team is Preston Edmead. He's a freshman. Listen to some of these stats. He's been the star of the show in the final 2 games of the CAA tournament. He had a game-winning banked three-pointer. By the way, if you didn't catch that, go back and watch that. He took Towson down in overtime on that banked 3. And he scored 26 points against Monmouth in the championship. He's a 6'1" guard. He's been one of the best freshmen in the country, and I don't think people are talking enough about him. And he's again, that type of guy that's about to put himself on the national stage with an opportunity to really give himself some renown. He's averaging 15.9 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 4.4 assists while shooting 40.4% overall and 38.3% from beyond the arc. Again, a high-caliber three-point shooter. His 25.7 assist rate is 184th in the country, and he sits at 402nd overall in offensive rating. So, looking at the offensive stats of some other players, those are the 2 main guys. However, to be such a stout defensive team, you need some guys cleaning up the glass. And that's who they get in Victor Onuetu. He is averaging 4.7 points, 6.9 rebounds. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? He is shooting 56.8% overall. Where he really comes into play, though, is the fact that he sits at 9th in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage and 42nd in the nation in defensive rebounding percentage. He also comes in at 102nd in block percentage. The team metric of being 53rd overall in the country in offensive rebounding percentage is a lot due to Onuetu. He is a key player on the glass. He's not going to show up in the stat book, though, but he's the type of guy, well, I mean, he will in terms of rebounding, but in terms of offensive stats, which is naturally what everybody looks for at first, he's not going to show up on the offensive end. But what's important is what he does, and he gives second chance opportunities to kick that ball back out to the 3, give it to Cruz Davis, give it to Edmead, give it to somebody else who can shoot threes, bang. Type of guy who's very crucial. And again, when you're playing a power conference in the NCAA tournament on the big stage, you have to be able to block out. You have to be able to give yourself second chance opportunities. And this is the type of guy who is going to quietly help elevate them to a potential upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament next week. Before we start our closing thoughts here, I want to take a moment to encourage you to check out and subscribe to our weekly newsletter on Substack, Bracket Busters. what we do is we send out during the regular season weekly heat check reports. We talk about who's hot, who's not. We give you a team that you need to know every single week. And during the off season, it doesn't stop. We do a lot of metric and data-driven articles. We give you an insight into your team. We do a lot of preseason reviews once rosters are starting to be complete. We talk about FIBA tournaments. You name it, we discuss it if it comes to mid-major college basketball. So if you want to talk more about your favorite non-power conference team, then I recommend you subscribe for free. It is a free newsletter, everyone, at bracketbustershoops.com. We got a word from our sponsor, which is me. Let's just get into our closing thoughts here. So we could spend probably 40 minutes talking about all the things that this team does so well and why they are underrated coming into the NCAA tournament next week. But let's kind of wrap this up. I don't want this to be a 40-minute video. Hofstra is a team, they took down Pittsburgh and Syracuse, and they lost by just 4 to UCF. There's a lot of question marks around UCF. They really turned it around in conference play, so that is a solid loss. I understand Syracuse and Pittsburgh are not good power conference schools. I get it. The point is, though, they beat those schools. They beat the power conferences. I don't care if it's a lesser team or not. What's important is they have 2 ACC wins on the record coming into the NCAA tournament. Aside from that, it proves that even early in the season, they had the potential to become a bracket buster. So they're led by Cruz Davis, they're led by Preston Edmead on the offensive end. And they are glued together by strong rotational players. And what matters about that is they have the makeup to become a Cinderella. They do. They're a well-balanced team. They're not just an offensive first team. They're not just a defensive first team, because we've seen those types of teams struggle in the NCAA tournament if they only do one thing well. This is a well-balanced team who has key players, who has pro players, potential pro players on the roster. So let's think about this for a second here. One of my favorite bracketologists on Twitter is T3 Bracketology. He has them currently listed as a 13 seed coming in. He had them coming in as a 13 seed this week. After they win in the championship, he bumped them up a little bit in terms of the 4 teams in the 13. They're still a 13 seed. So what they're going to probably do is they're going to probably play up against a team like Alabama or Kansas or Texas Tech or Virginia. Somebody in that caliber, which actually, well, Texas Tech just lost, so probably bump them out of the 4. So whoever's slotted into the 4, I'm not going to rip off some bracketology right off the top of my head here. But what's going to be important is the fact that they face off a team that relies on scoring inside. So let's take a look at Virginia. They play a similar slow style play, though not as slow as the old days, a little bit quicker. They do sit at 92nd in three-point shooting percentage and 55th in inside shooting percentage. So my point is, such a good defensive team inside the paint, like Hofstra is going to be able to hold their own against a team like Virginia, who relies on playing a little bit more inside. Because remember, Hofstra's also a good perimeter defensive team. So if Virginia, who maybe isn't quite as good from beyond the arc as they are from inside, is completely shut off from inside, Hofstra has the ability to also cut them off on the outside around the perimeter. So this is what I'm saying. It's going to completely depend on their seeding. It's hard to say, like, oh, this team's going to be bracket buster, this team's going to be bracket buster, because we don't know what the tournament looks like in terms of the entire bracket. But what I am here to tell you is that this team has the potential to become a bracket buster, and that's what's important. Because if they match up well against a team, which the selection committee probably won't give them a favorable one, let's be honest. However, if they do somehow land a favorable matchup, this is a team that could become a bracket buster, could become a Cinderella story in a year following a season that we didn't have a lot of bracket busters last year. This could be the type of team that restores that and gives us something fun to watch this year. So I'm going to end this video asking you, what do you think? Do you think that Hofstra could become a bracket buster this season? Do you think that they're well balanced? Are they not good enough in one statistic? Are they not good? Are they not deep enough? If they cut off Cruz Davis and cut off Preston Edmead, who's going to score? It's questions that we need to be asking. So I will end this on saying thank you all for watching. This will not be the last video before March Madness. This will not be the last video during March Madness. What I will say is I'll catch you on the next one. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got more coming. Thanks all.